As you join the call, please introduce yourself, where you're calling from, and kindly go back on mute.
Amanda
Shaw, DMV.
Welcome, Amanda.
Leroy from St. Louis.
Welcome, Leroy.
Mark Stewart, Los Angeles in the building. Good morning, everyone.
Welcome, Mark.
Jim Meadows, Denver, Colorado.
Welcome, Jim.
Sabrina, Houston,
Cleve
Texas.
Pearson.
Welcome, Sabrina, and welcome whoever was talking at the same time as Sabrina.
Yeah.
Bernice, Houston, Texas.
Welcome, Bernice.
Calvin Hong from San Jose.
Welcome, Calvin.
Jonathan Franco from Northern California.
Welcome, Jonathan.
Johnny Montes from Southern California.
Welcome, Johnny.
A shout out to Prescott. He just became a builder a couple days ago. He's here on this training. Congrats, Prescott. Let's go.
Welcome, Prescott, and
Congrats, Prescott.
Appreciate it, fellas.
Welcome, Prescott. Congratulations, man.
Now you just got to go get your 3 utility bills, 10 preferably.
Already on it.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. If your team is not on, go ahead and send a text message to have them join. Continue to promote. This is part 2 of our solar crash course. So if you want to be on the front line selling solar, this is the training to attend. And even if you don't want to be on the front line selling this, it's still a training to attend. So you can learn what your mentor is doing. So as you join the call, unmute yourself, tell us where you're calling from. Kindly go back on mute and text your team to get them on.
Morning, team. Solar Lou here, reporting from Tijuana.
Welcome, Lou.
Good morning, Luis Rangel, down in California.
Welcome, Luis.
Alejandro Amigo. Recording in progress.
Welcome. I think that was Alejandro. Welcome.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Good morning, Chris. This is Roberto from Rancho Cucamonga.
Welcome, Roberto.
Well, thank you, Chris.
Got your event happening this week, right?
Yes, sir. On Thursday. Yes.
Hello, this is Ricardo, and I'm also calling from Tijuana.
Welcome, Ricardo. Get your last minute text messages out.
Just wanted to introduce the team here. So Ricardo, who just introduced himself, as well as Emmeline and Vivi that you guys will see on the group, they are joining us in our appointment setting crew here to eventually work their way up to being solar pros with us.
Welcome. Very exciting. Now is the time to do that. The sun is starting to shine a little bit more out here in SoCal, so people are going to be worried about their bills.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, Chris, I think we're ready to get started, my friend.
All right. Well, this is going to be part 2 of our solar crash. And part 1, if you missed it, is uploaded into our Facebook group and you missed a really good training. Part 2 is going to be even more exciting. These are things you're going to want to write down, take notes while you become a solar pro. and we'll be learning from one of the solar pros that we all know, our president, Mr. Rangel, who's built a team and sold thousands of systems. So this is a time to listen and pay attention and ask your sponsor or mentor questions after they do presentations. Why did you do this? Why did you do that? Why did you say that? So let's all step forward and step back and let Mr. Rangel take over the floor. Floor is yours, Mr. Rangel.
All right. Chris, thank you so much, brother, for the introductions and for taking the introduction and introducing me. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the morning training. Make sure you text your team, let them know that this is happening. Okay, we want to make sure that you get as many of your people on. So today's a special day because we've got a leadership meeting happening. We've got some of our key leaders. Mr. Jabari Sadler's on his way from, or will be on his way very soon from Atlanta. We've got leaders from all over. Mr. Bean is going to be out here as well because we've got a very important leadership meeting going on tomorrow, but it's going to start today. So here's what's happening. Want to do some announcements today, even more so than we usually do on Mondays. Here's what you want to know about today. This is impromptu. We decided last night we're going to do this. Let me let a couple folks in. So we have rented a very, very nice Airbnb in the city of Whittier, California. This is where some of our leaders are going to be staying. We're putting the ladies up in a hotel, nearby. And then the gentlemen are going to be staying at an Airbnb. It's a $2 million house in Whittier, California. Beautiful $2 million house. So here's what's happening. Tomorrow, we're going to be locked in all day to talk about the company's vision, the company's future, the company's system, and how we're going to take this to the next level, which we're happy with everything that we've done, but that's going to pale in comparison. I see my friend, Mr. Calvin Hong here. He's also in town for this event. He's going to be in town for this event. So here's what's happening. Because we have this Airbnb, we get it today at 3 o'clock. We wanted to make the most of it. So today's Millionaire Mentor Zoom, we're going to have 15 tickets for attending the Millionaire Mentor training in person at this Airbnb. Okay. So if we have that link, Amelia and Jessica, let's go ahead and put it in the chat. Okay. 15 people can attend the training live in person. I'll tell you what the training is. Remember in December, we were doing 3 trainings a week, on systems training. There was one system training that was left. I mentioned we're going to do it in January. Well, it took us a little bit longer. We're doing it in February. We're doing it today. Today, I'm going to be training on the personality types, the yellows, blues, reds, and greens, and how to identify the prospect, whether it's a prospect you're trying to recruit into the business, or if it's a prospect that you're trying to sell one of our products to. You want to know the personality types, right? Red is money motivated, driven. Yellow is a caring person, tends to care more about the environment. Green is very analytical, and blue loves to have fun and very spontaneous. We're going to be breaking down that training. So today's training is going to happen via Zoom regardless. So attend via Zoom like we normally do. Those of you locals, there's 15 seats available to attend this training in person. That's 6 to 7. Here's the deal. Doesn't stop there. At 7:30, we're doing a business presentation in person only, not via Zoom. It'll be in person. So the question that I ask you is, who do you know in the Los Angeles area? We're going to do a wine and cheese mixer presentation at this $2 million Airbnb tonight. We decided last minute that we're going to do this, by the way. That's why you're just hearing it. Mr. Navarro and I decided on this yesterday. So 6 p.m., Millionaire Mentor Zoom in person there. That will also be live streamed via Zoom. And the business overview. Who do you know that is looking for an opportunity? Who is the sharpest person that you know that you want to invite at 7:30 tonight, Whittier, California, $2 million Airbnb for a wine and cheese mixer business overview? Okay? Your sharpest prospects. It's easier to get them to a $2 million place when there's going to be some wine and some networking afterwards. So you want to make sure that you promote that. I need you guys. So here's what we've got to do. Amelia and Jessica, let's create another Eventbrite for that as well with 20 guests maximum. 20 guests maximum. okay, for the 7:30. So I want you to start thinking, I've got some people that I know that I'm going to be calling that I've been dripping on for a while, I haven't talked to in a long time. I'm going to call them. I'm going to make at least 10 invitations for that today, and I'm going to see how many people I can get there. So anyways, that's what's happening today. Matter of fact, I've got some flyers here that I want to share. Okay. So that's what we're doing now. The Millionaire Mentor Zoom, again, same as usual, same time as usual, right? The in-person presentation is going to be done by Mr. Sam Bean and myself. So this is going to be, once again, in person, okay, in Whittier, California. So you want to make sure that you guys are promoting and you get to that. And it's going to be a lot of fun. So I look forward to seeing you guys there. So with that being said, guys, let's go ahead and get started. Let's get started with this training. And then, of course, listen. Oh, here's the thing. 11 a.m. sales meeting is happening, obviously, at 11 a.m. in about 45 minutes. All of you locals, be there. Our video crew is going to be following us. Well, our videographer, rather, is going to be following us starting at the 11 a.m. sales meeting. This is going to be for one of our word building vlogs. We're going to take advantage of everything that's happening today and tomorrow. So you're going to be able to come out on that vlog. If you are local, I highly suggest make your way to the Downey office. Okay, I've got a special treat for you guys today at the Downey office. I'll see you guys there. All right, let's get started, ladies and gentlemen, with the training. Okay, so once again, this is a continuation of a training that we did last week. It's a training on the solar crash course. Now, on the solar crash course, this is the basics that you need to know about solar, right? This will answer a lot of your questions about solar. So how does the solar system work? The solar system produces electricity during the day when the sun is out. Keep this in mind, ladies and gentlemen, even if the sun is out, or let's say it's a cloudy day, is your system still producing electricity? The answer is yes, your system is indeed still producing electricity. So now, albeit it may not be producing the same amount of electricity, but nevertheless, it's still producing electricity. So this is a common question that homeowners will often ask. Hey, what if it's a gloomy day? What if it's a foggy day? Is my system still going to produce? Yes, even though there is clouds, there's still rays going through the clouds and your system is still going to produce, albeit not as much as on a very sunny day, but it'll still produce. And keep in mind, Mr. Customer, that when we give you a solar proposal, and let's say the solar proposal says 10,000 kilowatt hours a year, here's what that means. It's already taking into account the cloudy days, the gloomy days, and the sunny days. It's taking all the rainy days. All of that is still taken into account. So if the system guarantees you 10,000 kilowatt hours a year, yes, some months is going to be bigger. Maybe some months it's 1,800 kilowatt hours, other months it's 900. At the end of the day, it's still 10,000 for the year. Okay, so the solar system produces the electricity and it sends it to the inverter. What the inverter does, ladies and gentlemen, is that the inverter turns the electricity from DC to AC. Now, I'm going to give you a tip. Here's a pro tip. I don't tell my customers from DC to AC. I'm telling you the technical terms. But what do I tell the customer? Because I don't want to get the customer confused. I simply say to the customer, it turns the electricity, it produces the electricity, and it turns it into usable electricity for you to use. That's it. I keep it simple. I don't recommend that you get into complicated terms. It turns it from DC to AC, right? Don't do that. Listen, you can do that if you want, right? I'm just giving you my advice. My advice is let them know that it turns it into usable electricity. So panels produce it, sends it to the inverter. The inverter converts that electricity into usable electricity for your home. Whatever you don't use is either going to get sent to the grid, as you can see there, sent to the grid, or it'll get stored on your battery if you have a battery. You see how the battery pops up? That's a solar age battery. So this customer doesn't have a battery in this example. So let's say, for example, you don't have a battery. It goes to the grid. But let's say you do have a battery. Great. It stores on the grid. On the battery. Now, if you overproduce, if your battery is not big enough, the battery will get stored up to its capacity. The rest of it will go to the grid. Whenever you need that electricity, the grid will send you whatever they send you. To give you an example, and it varies from utility to utility. For example, there's some utilities in California like LADWP. I believe they give you 1-to-1. You store 1 kilowatt hour of electricity on the grid, they're going to give you 1 back when you need it. Edison, which is where I live, for example, doesn't give you 1-to-1. Edison varies how much they give you, but it averages to about 25%. That means whatever you store on the Edison grid, they're going to keep 75%. So let's say I produce 20 kilowatt hours today. And during the day, I only use 10. The other 10 go to the grid because I don't have a battery. When I go back in the evening and I'm using electricity, Edison's going to say, here's 2.5 kilowatt hours. And I'm going to say, hey, what's going on? I gave you 10. Edison's going to say, yeah, but we charge you about 75%. So that other 7.5, you're going to have to buy. That is why we need a battery in Edison territory. Edison, PG&E, SD, G&E, you want to have a battery. Okay, so hope that kind of understands. Some of you guys are going to have to watch this a few times. You're going to have to see your mentor present it a few times for you to understand it. But this is in basic, simple terms. Okay, let's keep going. So again, your home produces electricity from the sun, sends it to the inverter, right? To use it, to convert it to usable electricity. Then it says to the battery, whatever the excess is. And then in the night, you're drawing from your battery. In the evening, there's no sun. You're not generating electricity from the sun. There's no sun. So where are you generating the electricity from? From your battery. This is the backup storage from the battery. Let's keep going. Now, there's backup and non-backup batteries. I don't really sell non-backup batteries, but that is an option that we have. So keep this in mind, ladies and gentlemen. Batteries serve 2 major purposes. Number 1, they store the excess electricity. That way you can use it later. Once again, when the sun is gone, that way you don't send it to the grid. You store it on the battery and you draw from your battery in the evening. The second reason is also for blackout protection. Let's say the grid goes down. There's no electricity. The grid is down. Okay, great. Grid is down. What does that mean? That means that I'm going to draw from my battery. Here's a common question. How long can I continue to draw electricity? How long can I stay with electricity if the grid goes down? Let's say the grid goes down for a week or a month. If I have a solar system with a battery, how long do I have electricity for? Technically, ladies and gentlemen, you have electricity all the time. There won't be a day where you don't have electricity to use. However, it's not unlimited electricity throughout the day. For example, simple example, I produce 20 kilowatt hours today. I use 10. The other 10 get stored on my batteries. I have 10, what's stored in the batteries, whatever's stored in the batteries, I am able to use throughout the rest of the day until the next day that the sun shines. The next day the sun shines again, my batteries get refilled. I produce another 20, I use 10. And guess what? If the grid is down, I'm probably not going to use 10. I'm not going to use the same amount. I'm going to conserve electricity. So let's say I produce 20 and I use 5. There's 15 left over. I have now extra electricity to draw in the night when the sun is gone, and then it repeats itself. So technically, when you have a solar system with backup batteries, they must be backup batteries because there are non-backup batteries. I'm going to explain that. If I have a solar system with backup batteries, the grid could be down for a month, and I am okay. My family and I are enjoying electricity throughout the day. Now, of course, a couple things to consider, right? If you have a very small system or not enough electricity, you're going to be limited on how much you have when the sun is gone, right? That's why it's important that we size the systems properly, right? So anyways, the non-backup battery, why would somebody go with a backup battery? That some of you guys should be asking yourself. Why would anybody go with a non-backup battery? The answer is simple. Money. They want to save some money. In my opinion, it's not worth it. The juice is not worth the squeeze. You should always, even if you're in a state that doesn't, like for example, in California, most people get solar with a battery. Why? But they get it for financial reasons because they don't want to lose the excess electricity, because remember, the utility companies here will keep about 75% of your excess electricity produced. So the customer doesn't make sense. They're like, I'd rather get a battery so I don't send it to the grid because I don't want to lose that electricity. That's the main reason why they do it. To me, that's an important reason, but the blackout protection for a couple bucks more, you should get the blackout protection. So a lot of people, they want to save money. So they say, well, what is the option with the non-backup battery? In case of a blackout, I don't have protection, but I store the excess electricity so I don't send it to the utility company. Okay, here's a price for a non-backup battery. Here's your monthly payment. But you will not have blackout protection in case of an emergency. Customer may say, I don't get a lot of blackouts. I don't really care too much for that. I say to them, I understand. And if that's what you want, that's what I'll offer you. I will, however, say, Mr. Customer, that having a battery with blackout protection is something that is much better to have and not need than to need and not have. You guys want to write that down, by the way. This is a money maker. This line is a money maker. And note takers are money makers. So if I were you, I would write it down. Solar is something that's just a solar system in general. Solar is something that's better to have and not need than to need and not have. Now, a battery protection, a backup battery, is something that is better to have and not need than to need and not have. Guess what? Your home security system, ADT, Brinks, soon Ripple. It's a home security. I've never been broken into. That. Listen, man, all the people that have been broken into at one point were not broken into. A solar system is, a home security system is also something that is better to have and not need than to need and not have. A residual income. I'm okay. I make enough money. I pay my bills. A residual leverage income is something that's better to have and not need than to need and not have. Okay, let's keep going. Hope you guys are getting value from this information. So let me give you an example of a non-backup batteries. The SolarEdge battery, this is one of the most common batteries, 10 kilowatt SolarEdge battery. With blackout protection, our price is $8,000 for the first battery. The second battery is $5,550 for each additional battery, right? So if they get, let's say, for example, 2 batteries, they'd be paying $13,550 for both batteries. First one is more expensive. By the way, in case you're asking yourself, why is the first one more expensive? The programming, all of the work and programming gets done to the first battery. The second battery is a lot easier. Second battery, all the programming is done. Okay. Now, without blackout protection, the first battery, so let's say you want same battery, SolarEdge 10 kilowatt, but you want to save some money. You pay $5,800 for the battery and $5,800 for every additional battery. It's the exact same battery, looks the same, but this one is not set up for blackout protection. If the grid goes down, you go down. Your house will be dark. So think about it. We're talking about a $2,200 difference. That's about $12 to $20 a month. There'll be some customers say, I want to save those $20 a month. I don't want blackout protection. In my opinion, that is silly. It's worth the extra 20 bucks, right? Maybe a little bit more, maybe 22, 23, but right around there. Okay, let's keep going. Here's an example of a N-phase battery. This is another battery carry, N-phase battery, 5 kilowatt battery. $10,500 for the first battery, $5,750 for each additional battery. By the way, can we check that this is accurate? $10,500 for a 5 kilowatt battery doesn't seem right. Can somebody put it in the chat what the price for an N-phase 5 kilowatt battery is? I think this is probably for a 10 kilowatt N-phase battery. I'm pretty sure it's for a 10 kilowatt N-phase battery. Yeah. So as a matter of fact, I'm 99% sure it is for a 10 kilowatt N-phase battery. So let's keep going. So that's an example, ladies and gentlemen, of what the cost is on these batteries. So I want you guys to keep that in mind. You know, very important that you guys understand this, right? The next thing is this, how to size a solar system. So a solar battery, how to size a solar battery. Here's a good rule of thumb, right? This is a rule of thumb, okay? For every 5 to 7,000 kilowatt hours that the customer consumes per year, you need one 10 kilowatt battery. If you sell them a Tesla 13 kilowatt battery, guess what? That's even better. The more battery you have, the better. But as a rule of thumb, for every a customer is using 5 to 7,000 kilowatt hours, you need about one 10 kilowatt battery. Here's how some people do it. You double whatever they're using in kilowatt hours. If they're using 5,000 kilowatt hours, 10 kilowatt battery. They're using 7,000, you need about 7,000 kilowatt hours, right? Let's say they're using 7,000 kilowatt hours. You need about 14 kilowatts of battery. That's a good rule of thumb, a good way to do it. The reason why I like to go based on 5 to 7,000, every 5 to 7,000 kilowatt hours used per year, you need about one 10 kilowatt battery. Why? Because, look, I'll give an example. Let's say somebody's using 5,000 kilowatt hours a year, but they're never home. They only use 20% of electricity when the sun is out. And somebody else is using 7,000 instead of 5,000 kilowatt hours, but they use 60, 70% of electricity when the sun is out. They're storing about the same amount of electricity. So this is where us as a professionals come in to ask these questions to the homeowner. So from 8,000 to 14,000, it is recommended that you use 2 batteries, okay? Now, based on the homeowner using at least 35% of their electricity while the sun is out. So these are good rule of thumbs, and 35% is a very minimum. If you tell me I'm using 7,000 kilowatt hours a year, I look at your bill, indeed, you're using 7,000. You need to, at the very minimum, be using 35% of that electricity when the sun is out and the rest in the evening. I would love for you to be at about half, more than half, 50%. Let me put it to you another way. The more electricity that you are using during the day when the sun is out, the less battery power you need. The more electricity that the customer uses while the sun is out, the less battery power they need. Those of you guys that want to be solar pros, this is so key, especially those of you selling in California or in states where batteries are sold most often. If you're in a state, this is an important, distinction. If you are in a state where you get 1-to-1 net metering, means whatever you send to the grid, you get it back. They don't really take much, or they take 10%. They don't take much. This rule doesn't really apply. You can have a backup battery, and it doesn't really matter because your battery gets filled up, the extra goes to the grid, they're going to give it all back to you. However, in California, we're not talking about blackout protection here. We're counting how financially does it benefit. By the way, feel free to hold the questions, and I'm going to open it up for 5 minutes for questions. I'm going to try to finish at 10:50. That's a good question. So let's say, for example, okay, we are in another state where the net, or even in California with LADWP. LADWP has a pretty good net metering program. They don't tax you 75%. This wouldn't really apply to them. If they're using 10,000 kilowatt hours a year and they want some partial blackout protection, I would sell them one 10 kilowatt battery. How much blackout protection do you want? Because if I sell you one 10 kilowatt battery, you're going to have about 2, 3, maybe 4 hours of electricity when the sun is out, right? So, again, this whole training could take a whole lot of time on solar batteries. But for those of you selling in California, Edison, SDG&E, PG&E, this is a good rule of thumb, okay? The more electricity they use while the sun is out, the more exception you can make on this, right? The less batteries they need. Let's keep going. So how to size the solar system? Let's say a family is hold on one second. Let's say a family is using 10,000 kilowatt hours a year, and they're using 65% or more of their electricity while the sun is out. You can justify one battery. Remember I said, think about this. I mentioned earlier for every 5 to 7,000 kilowatt hours. you need one 10 kilowatt battery. But if they're using 10,000 kilowatt hours a year, and they're using more than 65% of the electricity while the sun is out, you could justify, keyword, justify one battery. Personally, I would rather sell them more than one 10 kilowatt battery. So, for example, a perfect system here would be one Tesla battery. A Tesla battery is 13.5 kilowatt hours. So the SolarEdge battery is 10,000. The Tesla battery is 13.5. So for this particular customer, I would say, look, I recommend you spend an extra couple thousand on upgrading to a Tesla battery because it's a 13.5 kilowatt versus a 10 kilowatt battery. Okay. So let's keep going. So 10,000 kilowatt hours, that averages to about 27 kilowatt hours daily. Of course, that doesn't mean it's 27 kilowatt hours every single day. That's just what it averages. Some months he may produce 40. Other months he may produce 17. But the average is 27 kilowatt hours daily. 65% of that equals 17.5 kilowatt hours. That leaves 9.5 kilowatt hours left to be stored. Okay. Now, let's see. On the contrary, let's say he's using 10,000 kilowatt hours a year. Again, 27 kilowatt hours daily average, but he uses 35% during the day. That means that he's only using 9.5 kilowatt hours during the day. That leaves 17.5 kilowatt hours left to be stored. This person would definitely need two batteries. Again, at the end of the day is how much do you use when the sun is out? So let's say, for example, it's Michael. And Michael says to me, yeah, I use a lot of electricity, ever since my Tesla. Here's a very important question and a very obvious question. How, Michael, do you charge your Tesla? Let's say Michael says, I charge my Tesla every evening, after work, overnight. My question would be, Michael, if you are going to continue charging your Tesla when the sun is out, you need more batteries because it's going to drain your battery. Everything's going to go to the Tesla. Is there a way that you can charge your car during the day? Michael says, yeah, I mean, I go into my office around 10. I could start charging it at 7 in the morning, 8 in the morning. Great. If you make that change, that'll be a significantly better situation. You're going to save a lot of electricity because you're not going to drain your battery in the evening. What about the weekends? Yeah, weekends I'm free. So make sure you charge your car on Sunday during the day so you're ready to go Monday. He says, I charge every 2 days. Okay, great. Charge it Sunday, then charge it Tuesday morning, but charge it while the sun is out. So you're drawing from the electricity that you just generated from the sun, right? And then any additional excess electricity gets stored on the battery for your home to use in the evening. Okay, let's keep going. So here's some utility companies in California that require batteries. Edison, SDG&E, PG&E. Utilities that do not require batteries, LADWP, Riverside, Azusa, Burbank. And I should put asterisks next to some of them because their net metering policies aren't that favorable, but they're not as bad as the top three. Okay, you can sell a system without a battery. What about if the customer just says, hey, I don't want a battery, but they're in these utility companies or any utility company that has, that doesn't have good net metering? Can you sell a system without a battery? If you sell them at approximately a 70% offset or less, the answer is yes. And the reason why is because they won't have excess electricity to go to the grid. So let's pretend George is a customer and he's with one of these utility companies that is highly recommended to get a battery. And let's say George says to me, JC, I just don't want a battery, man. I just don't want a battery. But I want solar. Can we do it? I'm going to say, George, I'm going to level with you. The answer is yes, but I need to explain a couple things. George says, okay, explain. I wouldn't feel comfortable, and it doesn't make financial sense for you to get a system that produces 100% of the electricity that you need, because a lot of it is going to be excess electricity that you're going to lose, frankly. If you don't get a battery, it's going to go to Edison. Edison's going to keep 75% of it. It doesn't make sense. What I would recommend is that we size a system that's about 70% of what you need. So right now, George, you're using 10,000 kilowatt hours a year. I recommend that we size a system for 7,000 kilowatt hours a year instead of the 10,000 that you need. The reason why is because we don't want to have any excess electricity any day. And if you do have excess electricity, it's very minimal. You're not going to feel it, right? It goes to the grid, not a big deal. Okay? So that's the only way I would sell a system that in one of these territories, one of these utility companies that don't have favorable net metering, I will sell them a 70% offset, no battery. Okay? That's the reason why. So a couple misconceptions. We went through this last week. Lien on the property. They don't put a lien on the property. Okay. I have 2 bills now. No, you get your solar system replaces your electric bill. It's too expensive. Listen, if you could afford your utility payment, you could afford your solar payment. So the answer is too expensive is not a real answer. Because you're going to pay 90%, 95% of the time with a solar system, you're going to pay less than when you're already paying. And every year that goes by, you're going to pay less money. You're going to save more money every year that goes by versus if you didn't have a solar system. What if I sell my home? No problem. The payment, benefits, savings, and warranties all get transferred over to the new homeowner. What if somebody doesn't want to buy my home because it has solar panels? This is a question that I love. Well, George, let's say, for example, you have a pool and I come by your house and I'm looking at your house to buy your house and say, George, love the house, hate the pool. What are you going to say to me? You're going to say, well, then I guess this is not the house for you because my house has a pool. Same thing applies to solar panels. But not only that, solar panels are appealing to most people these days. And let's say 10 years from now, you sell your home, it's going to be even that much more appealing 10 years from now because more people are more used to it. Not only that, whatever you're saving right now, you're going to save way more year 10. So to be even that much more appealing, solar panels will be that much more normal. So that's not really something that we worry about too much. Okay. Here's the next steps to going solar. Check it. This week goes with the homeowner presentation. I'm not going to go through it right now. So, all right. I want to go ahead through the questions. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. So feel free to unmute yourself and ask away. We've got about 10 minutes because I got to get going and go to the other company.
Hey, JC.
Yes.
This is Thomas Watson out of Atlanta. How you doing today?
Doing great, Thomas. How are you?
Good, good. Got a question for you. Can you explain that if they don't get a battery, you know, don't build it at 100%, but 70%? Can you explain that again and why the 70% for me? Because I kind of missed that.
Yep. So the reason why it works like that is this. Let's say, for example, you are using let's say you are using 10,000 kilowatt hours a year, right? 10,000. But you are in a utility company that whatever you send to the utility company, they keep the majority of it. So it doesn't make sense for you to overproduce, right? Because whatever you overproduce, there's no battery to store it in. It's going to go to the grid. You follow me so far, Thomas?
I'm with you.
Perfect. So we want to avoid overproduction to send to the grid. Therefore, if we size a system at, let's say, 60, 70, 75%, whatever you're producing, you're using 90%, 95% of it, 100% of it. So there's very minimal extra that goes to the grid. So we don't have that issue. Does that make sense? So but think about this. Let's say when I show the customer, Mr. Customer, looks like you're paying 30 cents a kilowatt hour currently. You're using, check this out, 10,000 kilowatt hours a year at 30 cents. I show you on your bill what you're paying. The customer says, indeed, I see how I'm paying 30 cents. That means that you're paying $3,000 a year, Mr. Customer. You see that? Customer says yes. That means that you're averaging $250 per month. You see that, Mr. Customer? Customer says yes. I say, if you get a solar system, I can get you down to 22 cents. So think about this. 70% of your electricity, 7,000 kilowatt hours, you're going to produce yourself at 22 cents. The other 30%, 3,000, you're going to buy from the utility company at 30 cents. So my question to you, Thomas, is this. Is it better to pay 30 cents for every kilowatt hour, all 10,000? Or is it better to pay 30 cents just for 3,000 of them and pay 22 cents for the other 7,000?
The latter.
The latter. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why you would go with that. So you're still going to save money because on 70% of what you use, you're paying 22 cents instead of 30.
Yeah.
Right. So, and then that's how we agree, right? And that's a logic behind it.
Okay. Thank you, JC.
Very cool. A couple quick
Yes,
things.
sir.
I know that your plethora of people here were looking real hard at that last screen that you put up on your display. If you could put that up rather than my face, that'd be awesome. For the steps to the sale. Appreciate that. That's beautiful. That really gives people something to look at when they're talking about good smart questions, right? You mentioned the word professional a number of times during the process, and you don't want to over prepare. This library behind me is not real. Mine looks a little different than that, but it's similar. You don't want to just keep on gathering books and never get to making those 10 mistakes to get to that one person. It's a numbers game. Develop a pattern and keep on going. But my point is this. You have to know your market. If you're not going to do virtual and you don't try to master 40 states just because we can do 40
Right.
states. You want to master one. You can get to a second one later. When you're a real pro, you might have 3 preferred states under your belt. Okay. So please focus on a simple. Take a small plate out, not a big plate, and manage it. You're going to be scared of the big plate. So make the plate smaller. And I just want to share with you, the reason I say this is because in my market, I'm in Delaware, my biggest, most expensive per kilowatt company, and I'm going to go a step further about the fact that, yes, on the solar, it is produced, at DC on the roof. And when it converts to AC, what happens is I cannot even get a permit on my battery if my 10.5 kilowatt, they won't even let me put a 13 Tesla on the roof. They say that my AC number is bigger than my consumption. So be careful that you don't have a really quirky permit. You need to get to know this, and Freedom Forever can help you because they have the knowledge of each individual company. And your pros in this network can help get you the answer if you get to that. So get to know the 2 or 3. You don't even have to get to know your whole state. Get to know 1 or 2, if they're big, or 2 or 3 if they're small, electric companies near you, and master them. You need to, and then everything that he's sharing with you and going to teach you, you can apply much more handily. All right.
Yep.
I appreciate it.
James, are you a mentor with the platform?
I am a trainer. I just joined you. It took me about 3 weeks for them to clean up all my previous Freedom Forever sign-ons because I actually had to hide. The other first company kept me so deep and hard on my Freedom Forever association that I couldn't even get Freedom Forever sign-on with my second company that I was writing deals behind other VPs, behind other.
I'm excited, James. I'm excited for you to become a mentor. That way, because you're right. You bring up a couple great points. Focus. I don't focus on every market. I get leads assigned to me. Most leads I get assigned to me, I do not take. I know my markets that I am good at. That I know. There's some markets I got assigned 3 really good leads in Illinois. In Illinois, I closed deals in Illinois, but guess what? It is it's a pain in the butt. So I did not take those appointments. I assigned them to people like Mr. Tony Denner. Right, exactly. So, to James's point, like, for example, Delaware, I'm excited for you to be a mentor. That way, any Delaware leads, you can help people out with those. So thank you for sharing. I also have a question here from MJ. MJ asked a question. If somebody changes their mind later, can they add the backup battery? Can they go from non-backup to backup? The answer is yes and no. It's going to just cost them more money. So if they want to go through that, they're going to have to go and, we're going to give them a quote and they're going to go and do it. So I try to encourage my customers on a couple things, getting for sure getting the right system size. That's my job as a professional. The second thing is, another thing, sometimes people ask you, well, can I get those extra 2 or 3, 4 panels that you recommend later? I say, technically you can, but it'll cost you significantly more. That is a whole new construction job. If you want to get them, my recommendation is, again, it's better to have that extra electricity and not need it than to need it and not have it, right? That way you're preparing for the future. I always also encourage people to get an extra 20% buffer, at the very least 15%. You don't want to get 100% of what you need. Let's say you use 10,000 kilowatt hours. I don't want to leave the sale selling you 10,000. I want to leave the sale selling you at the very minimum 11,500, but my real goal is 12,000, 20% and above. Why? Because your solar system, and this is what I said to my customers, your solar system, like your cell phone, your computer, your TV, over time, it's not going to produce like it did when it was new. Your system's going to produce roughly 0.5% less electricity every single year. So we want to have that extra buffer. That way, in 15 years, 10, 20 years, you still have a good amount of electricity. You're able to still cover what is it that you need. Of course, assuming that you don't add, more things like more square footage of pool, AC, electric vehicle. Of course, if you add these things that use more electricity, then you're gonna need more. But that's also why I asked a question in the presentation. The question in the presentation is, we have a PowerPoint presentation. So I like to go through this PowerPoint presentation. It gives me all of the answers that I need. For example, one of the questions is, Mr. Customer, is there anything that you plan on doing to your home that may increase the amount of electricity you're currently using? Then I give them examples. I jog their memory. For example, more square footage, central AC, pool, jacuzzi, electric vehicle, or anything of the sort. Now the people say, oh, yes, I'm thinking of adding a pool. We got it. Now you want me to factor that in? I should factor that in. Or they're going to get an electric vehicle. That's a big one, right? In California, especially. If you're going to get an electric vehicle, I'm going to show you what you currently need. But based on the vehicle, we're going to add more. We covered this last week. We covered electric vehicle usage last week. So let's see here. James, okay, we got you. We got MJ. Feel free to unmute yourself. And remember, the Millionaire Mentor Zoom, those of you guys attending in person, you got to register. Make sure you only register if you're going to attend in person because it's limited seating. That same day, same place, 7:30, business presentation. You got a guess? So Jessica, let's make sure that we do one for 7:30 business showcase. Okay, you want to put two links, guests and reps. Okay, if you got a guest, you want to attend the 7:30 training. Only guests, because it's an Airbnb. It's a beautiful, luxurious Airbnb. Oh, for the 7:30, you should only be there if you've got guests. All right, we got another question. Roberto, good. You're registered. Love it.
Mr.
Okay,
Rangel.
cool. Looks like we're good to go.
Mr.
Yeah.
Rangel.
Go ahead, MJ.
Yes, good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. So you said they can change their mind to get an upgrade to make a non-backup battery a backup battery. However, I mean, once you've stressed to them that, yes, this is what I believe you need, this is what the solar professional believes you need, and they still say, no, I want to get the solar, and I don't want that backup battery. So you sell the system, right, as is,
yes,
but make them aware that it's going to cost them more down the road, so you might as well just put it in now.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
And keep in mind, they're better off getting a system with a non-backup battery or no battery than they are to not do anything. But as professionals, right, it's not just about making sales and signing contracts. It's about making the customer aware of what they actually need, right? It's that we're in this for the long haul, right? And we audit every deal. As a company, we audit every deal. Not only do we audit the deal, listen, for example, there was a deal that somebody made a mistake. They sold the customer what was it? I think it was a 5 kilowatt system for a big system, a 5 kilowatt battery for a huge system, right? And he thought he had added 2 or 3 batteries instead of the 1, right? So that got placed on right away, hey, this is not nearly enough. What is this for? They questioned him. Then he had to go and re-sign the contract to do it properly. So, let's make sure. One of the things about us is, we want to make sure we're building a culture. And this is a culture that we already have built, and we want to continue this, to build a culture of doing right by people, helping each other out, helping the customer out, speaking with the truth, because shady salespeople are not going to last here. I'm just saying that. I don't think we have any of those here, but in case they slip by, you're not going to last here. We don't put up with that stuff. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I look forward to seeing you guys tonight on the Millionaire Mentor Zoom. It's going to be a good one. One more tip I'm going to give you. I put in the WhatsApp group, and I'm going to put it on the Facebook group. The personality test, I recommend that you either download out on Google Sheets. Today at 6 p.m., I'm going to be training on the personalities, and I'm going to be giving you a test so you can find out what personality type are you. So you want to be prepared. I put it up 2 hours ago. So during the training, we're going to put it on the chat, but you want to be prepared. Don't be one of those people that's downloading stuff last minute. It's already on the WhatsApp group. It is pinned, and it's there. It's pinned for 24 hours. So I appreciate you guys. Locals, I'll see you guys in the office in 7 minutes. Bye-bye.
No.
Recording stopped.
No.